हेलो फ्रेंड्स, गुड मॉर्निंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू माय डियर सीएससी एस्पिरेंट्स। तो फ्रेंड्स, कल तक हमने डिस्कस किया था फाइनेंशियल बिल्स के बारे में और आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे बजट इन पार्लियामेंट में। इससे पहले सभी से अनुरोध है कि जितने भी एस्पिरेंट्स हैं जो कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन की प्रिपरेशन कर रहे हैं वो चैनल को सब्सक्राइब, लाइक और शेयर ज़रूर करें। तो फ्रेंड्स, आइए चलते हैं टॉपिक की ओर। बजट इन पार्लियामेंट। सबसे पहले बजट होता क्या है? That is the estimations of income and expenditures of the government. I again repeat it, estimations of income and expenditures of government. Constitution refers करता है बजट को as the annual financial statement या फिर जो बजट टर्म है has nowhere been used in the constitutions. It is the popular name for the annual financial statement. इसका पॉपुलर नेम हम इसको एनुअल फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट भी कहते हैं, जो प्रायर एस्टिमेट किया जाता है इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट को। और ये डील करता है आर्टिकल 112 ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस। बजट एक स्टेटमेंट है जो एस्टिमेट करता है इनकम और एक्सपेंडिचर या रिसिप्ट्स एंड एक्सपेंडिचर्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट। इंडिया इन ए फाइनेंशियल ईयर जो शुरू होता है, बिगिनस होता है, तो वो 1 अप्रैल एंड ऑफ 31 मार्च। इन एडिशन जो एस्टिमेट्स ऑफ रिसिप्ट्स एंड एक्सपेंडिचर होते हैं, बजट कंटेन्स करता है सर्टेन अदर एलिमेंट्स को जो ओवरऑल बजट कंटेन्स करता है इन सभी एस्टिमेशंस को। वो क्या हैं? फर्स्ट, एस्टिमेट्स ऑफ रेवेन्यू एंड कैपिटल रिसिप्ट्स। सेकंड, ways and means to raise the revenue. Third, estimates of expenditure. And fourth, details of the actual receipts and expenditure of the closing financial year and the reason for any deficit or surplus in that year. And fifth point is economic and financial policy of the coming year, that is taxation proposals, prospects of revenue, spending program and introductions of new schemes and projects. Government of India has two budgets. पहले टू बजट्स गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया पास करती थी, जिनको हम रेलवे एंड जनरल बजट कहते हैं। बट आफ्टर 2015 ये सब दोनों बजट एक ही बजट में इन्वॉल्व कर दिए और अब एक ही बजट पास होता है हमारे देश में, इंडिया में, जिसमें रिसीप्ट्स एंड एक्सपेंडिचर ऑफ ओनली पहले कैलकुलेट किए जाते थे रेलवेज में, अब वो सब जनरल बजट में ही कैलकुलेट किए जाते हैं। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन फ्रेंड्स, इंडिया के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में ये प्रोविजन कंटेन किया गया है, जिसके कुछ एनेक्टमेंट किए जाते हैं इस बजट में। वो क्या है? प्रेसिडेंट, फर्स्ट पॉइंट है, President shall, in respect of every financial year, cause to be laid before both the House of Parliament statement of the estimated receipts and capital expenditure of the Government of India. Second, no demand for a grant shall be made except on the recommendation of the President. No demand for a grant shall be made except on the recommendation of the President. Third, no money shall be withdrawn from the Consolidated Fund of India except under appropriation made by law. Fourth, no point. Fourth, no money bill, no money bill imposing tax shall be introduced in the Parliament except on the recommendation of the President, and such a bill shall not be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. फिफ्थ पॉइंट है, नो टैक्स शैल बी लीव्ड और कलेक्टेड एक्सेप्ट बाय अथॉरिटी ऑफ लॉ। एंड सिक्स पॉइंट इज, पार्लियामेंट कैन रिड्यूस और एबॉलिश ए टैक्स बट कैन नॉट इंक्रीज इट। एंड सेवेंथ पॉइंट, द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हैज आल्सो डिफाइंड द रिलेटिव रूल्स और पोजिशन ऑफ बोथ द हाउसेज ऑफ पार्लियामेंट with regard to the enactment of the budget। और उसके कुछ वे हैं। व्हाट इज़ द वे? The first point is money bill or financial bill dealing with taxation cannot be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. It must be introduced only in the Lok Sabha. Which financial bills are the financial bill? First, Article 117 and Section 1st deal. Point second, the Rajya Sabha has no power to vote on the demand for grants. I again repeat it. The Rajya Sabha has no power to vote on the demand for grants. It is the exclusive privilege of the Lok Sabha. Third point है, the Rajya Sabha should return the money bill. The Sabha should return the money bill or finance bill to the Lok Sabha within 14 days. The Lok Sabha can either accept or reject the recommendation of the Rajya Sabha in this regard. And the eighth point is the estimates of expenditures embodied in the budget. The estimate of expenditure embodied in the budget shall now separately the expenditure charged on the Consolidated Fund of India and the expenditure made from the Consolidated Fund of India. And the last point is the budget shall distinguish expenditure. The budget shall distinguish expenditures on revenue account from the expenditures. So these are the constitutional provisions which can contain, which are followed in the contents of the budgets. So charged expenditure, how the expenditures are charged in the budget during the budget process. Budget consists of two types of expenditures. The expenditure charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India first, and the expenditure second, and the expenditure made from the Consolidated Fund of India. First is expenditure charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India, and second, expenditure made from the Consolidated Fund of India. Charge expenditure is non-votable by the parliament. Charge expenditure is not votable by the parliament. That is, it can only be discussed by the parliament. It can only be discussed by the parliament, while other types has to be voted by the parliament. Now, the list of charge expenditures. What is the list? The first point is emoluments and allowances of the president and other expenditure relating to his office. Second, salaries and allowances of the chairperson and the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha and the speaker and the deputy speaker of the Lok Sabha. Third, salaries and allowances and pensions of the judges of the Supreme Court. And the fourth, pension of the judges of the High Court. And the fifth point is salary and allowances and pensions of the computer and controller and auditor general of India. And sixth is salaries, allowances, and pension of the chairman and members of the Union Public Service Commission. And the seventh point is administrative expenses of the Supreme Court, the Office of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, and Union Public Service Commission, including the salaries, allowances, and pension of the persons serving in these offices. Eighth point is the debt charges for which the Government of India is liable, including interest, sinking, fund charges and redemption charges, and other expenditure relating to the raising of loans and the service and redemption of debt. Ninth point is any sum required to satisfy any judgment, decree of award, decree या फिर award of any court or arbitral tribunal. एंड द लास्ट पॉइंट इज चार्ज एक्सपेंडिचर के लास्ट पॉइंट जो है एनी अदर कोई भी दूसरा एक्सपेंडिचर डिक्लेयर्ड बाय द पार्लियामेंट टू बी सो चार्ज्ड. So these are the charge expenditure provisions. Now the stages in enactment, how the budget are enacted, and the which stages in enactment. Budget goes through the six steps in stages in the parliament. The first stages: presentations of budget, second general discussion, third scrutiny by departmental committees, and fourth, voting on demands for grants, fifth, passing of appropriation bills, and the sixth is passing of finance bills. These are the six stages of the enactment of the budget. I again repeated: first, presentations of budget; second, general discussions; third, scrutiny by departmental committees; and fourth is voting on demand for grants; fifth is passing of appropriation bill; and last six is passing of finance bills. These are the six stages on which the process going on. Stages are enactment of the budget in these stages. First is the presentations of budget. Budget is presented in two parts. Budget is presented in two parts. Before 2015, the railway budget and the general budget. But onward 2015, the budget, the railway were included in the general budget. Now today, the government of India in Parliament present the budget, only one budget, that is the general budget. Introductions. The finance minister presents the general budget with a speech known and as the budget speech. At the end of the speech in the Lok Sabha, the budget is laid before the Rajya Sabha, which can only discuss it and has no power to vote on demand for grants. So general discussions, what is happening in general discussioning? So in general discussion on budget begin a few days after its presentations. It takes place in both the houses of parliament and lasts usually for 3 to 4 days. During this stage, which stage? General discussion. During this stage, the Lok Sabha can discuss the budget as a whole or on any question of principle involved therein, but no cut motion can be moved, or nor can be budget be submitted to the vote of the House. The finance minister has a general right of reply at the end of the discussion. Third, scrutiny by departmental committees. After the general discussion on the budget is over, the houses are adjourned for about 3 to 4 weeks. During this gap period, the 17 departmental standing committee of parliament examine and discuss in detail the demands for grants of the concerned ministers and prepare reports on them. These reports are submitted to both the houses of parliament for considerations. The standing committee system established in 1993. Before 1993, standing committee system was not established, but after 1993, the standing committee system was established, makes parliamentary financial control or ministers much more detailed, close, in depth, and comprehensive. Fourth point is voting on demand for grants. In the light of the reports of the Departmental Standing Committee, the Lok Sabha takes up voting of demand for grants, and the demands are presented now ministry wise, and the demands were presented ministry wise. Any minister wants the finance, that he or she presented his or her demands in the general discussions. A vote on demands for grants, the demands are presented ministry wise. A demand becomes a grant after it has been duly voted. There are 2 points which should be noted in this context. Number one, voting of demand for grants is the exclusive privilege of the Lok Sabha. That is, the Rajya Sabha has no power of voting the demands. Rajya Sabha has no power of voting the demands. Second, the voting is confined to the votable part of the budget. the expenditure charged on the Consolidated Fund of India is not submitted to the vote. It can only be discussed. While in the general budget total 109 demands, 103 for civil expenditures and 6 for defense expenditures. Railway budget, now today railway is also included in this budget, but it has 32 demands. Each demand is voted separately by the Lok Sabha. During this stage, the member of parliament can discuss the detail of the budget and the move motions to reduce any demands for grants. Such motions are called as cut motions, which are of the three kinds cut motions. Number one, policy cut motions, economy cut motion, and token cut motions. Policy cut motions represents करता है disapproval of the policy underlying the demand. ये states करता है, it states the amount of the demands be reduced to rupees 1. The members can also advocate on alternative policy. And the second motion is the economy cut motions. Economy cut motion represents the economy that can be affected in the proposed expenditure. It states that the amount of the demand be reduced by a specified amount, which may be either a lump sum reduction in the demand or omission or reduction of the item on the demand. Now, third is the token cut motions. It ventilates it represents a specific grievances that is within the sphere of the responsibility of the government of India. It states that the amount of the demand be reduced by rupees 100. The significance of a cut motion lies in first, facilitating the initiation of the concerned discussion on a specific demand for grant, and second, upholding the principle of responsible government by probing the activities of the government. इसी तरीके से the cut motion do not have much utility in practice. They are only moved and discussed in the House but not passed as the government enjoys majority support. Their passage by the Lok Sabha amounts to the expression of want of parliamentary confidence in the government and may lead to its resignations. In total, 26 days are allotted for the voting of demands. On the last day, the Speaker puts all the remaining demands to vote and disposes them whether they have been discussed by the members or not. This is known as glutine. In total, I again repeat it, in total 26 days are allotted for the voting of demands. On the last day, the speaker puts all the remaining demands to vote. The speaker puts all the remaining demands to vote and disposes them whether they have been discussed by the members or not. This process is known, this is known as glutine. This is known as glutine. Now the fifth point is passing of appropriation bill. What is the appropriation bill? The constitution states that no money shall be withdrawn from the consolidated fund of India except under appropriations made by the law. Appropriation bills means those bills which are made by the law and grant the permission to withdraw the money from the consolidated fund of India. But first, it should seek the permission from which is appropriate made by law. According to it, an appropriation bill is introduced to provide for the appropriation out of the consolidated fund of India. All money required to meet the grants voted by the Lok Sabha first, and second is the expenditure charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. No such amendments can be proposed to the appropriation bill in either house of the parliament that will have the effect of varying the amount or altering the destination of any grant voted or of varying the amount of any expenditure charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. The appropriation bill becomes the appropriation act after when it is assented by the assent is given by the President of India. From the act authorizes the payments from the consolidated fund of India till the enactment of the appropriation bill. This take time and usually goes on till the end of April. But the government needs money to carry on its normal activities after 31st March. To overcome this financial difficulty, the Constitution has authorized the Lok Sabha to make any grant in advance in respect to the estimated expenditure for a part of the financial year, pending the completion of the voting of the demands for grants and the enactment of the appropriation bill. Provisions This provision is known as the what is which we says about the provision. This provision is known as the uh, vote on account, and it is passed after the general discussions on budget is over, and it is generally granted for 2 months for an amount equivalent to one-sixth of the total estimations. Now the last point is 6 point. 6 point from the last stages the budget is passed. The passing of finance bills. Finance bills is introduced to give effect to the financial proposals of the government of India for the years coming year or following year. It is subject to all the conditions applicable to a money bill. Unlike the appropriation bill, the amendments can be moved in the case of a finance bill. According to the Provisional Collections of Taxes Act of 1931, the finance bills must be enacted, that is passed by the parliament, and assent is given by the president within 75 days. Finance Act legalize the income side of the budget and completes the process of the enactment of the budget and other grants. In addition to the budget that contains the ordinary estimates of income and expenditures for one financial year, various other grants are made by the parliament under extraordinary or special circumstances. Supplementary grants, it is granted when the amount authorized by the Parliament through the Appropriation Act for a particular service for the current financial year is found to be insufficient for that year. And additional grant, it is granted when a need has arisen during the current financial year for additional expenditure upon some new service not contemplated in the budget for that year. And the excess grant, it is granted when money has been spent on any service during a financial year in excess of any services in excess of the amount granted for the services in the budget for that year. It is voted by the Lok Sabha after the financial year. Before the demands for excess grants are submitted to the Lok Sabha for voting, they must be approved. They must be approved by which? By the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament. And the vote of credit, it is granted for meeting an unexpected demand for the upon the resources of India when on account of the magnitude or the identified character of the services. The demand cannot be stated. The demand cannot be stated with the details ordinarily given in the budget. It is like a blank check given to the exclusive by the Lok Sabha. Exceptional grants are those grants it is granted for a special purpose and forms no part of the current services of any financial year. And the token grant is those grants when funds to meet the proposed expenditure on a new service can be made or available by reappropriation. A demand for a grant, a demand for a grant of a token sum, suppose rupees 1, that is submitted to the vote of the Lok Sabha, and if assented, funds are made available. Reappropriation involves transfer of funds from one head to another. It does not involve any additional expenditure. Supplementary, additional, excess, and exceptional grants and vote of credit are regulated by the same procedure which is applicable in the case of a regular budget. So friends, these are the lectures on the budgets. Now the lecture is over, and please like, share and subscribe the channels and listen the lectures very concentrately and get the materials. So meet again with you friends with the new and latest lectures on the funds on tomorrow. So wait for the latest lectures on tomorrow. Thank you so much and Jai Hind.